Hi guys, for this video, we'll be discussing about the results and the discussion section of your final manuscript. So when we talk about results and discussion, this chapter presents the results, the discussion, and the summary of the data that were collected. It presents all relevant results of the findings of the statistical analysis in relation to each research questions or statement of the problem identified in the introduction. So this section or chapter is actually connected to our introduction, especially or specifically our statement of the. So basically, this will be the answer to the statement of the problem that we're able to propose during our proposal defense. So talk about results, it clearly presents the data in textual form with appropriate tabular or graphical support. The data must provide sufficient, valid, and realistic evidence to the resolution of the research problem. The findings must be logically organized into subsections according to the research problems. So as what I mentioned earlier, it must be connected to the introduction. So for example, we were able to have statement problem number one or research problem number one as the profile of the respondents. So the first part of the results and discussion should also focus on the profile of the respondents. For example, our research problem number two is all about finding the mean responses of our respondents in terms of their level of agreement to a certain issue, then section 2 of our results and discussion should also focus on the mean score that we were able to analyze based from the results of our analysis. So important note, the subsection title should correspond to the content per section for both quantitative and a qualitative study. So please take note of this. So we need to follow our statement of the problem in order to organize also our results of the study. Now, let's go to the discussion. The section contains the interpretation of the data according to the statistical or thematic results and are reinforced by related studies. Take note, reinforced by related studies. In this particular section, we need to utilize our related literature to support the results of our study. Not only present the results of the study based on the table provided by the statistician, but at the same time, we need to relate this to other studies so that when we have basis, whether other studies would also agree with our study or disagree with our study. So take note, we need to have related studies to support the results of our study. The discussion answers a question, so what? By explaining what the result means. Likewise, the data must be analyzed and interpreted with depth relative to its theoretical and conceptual frame. So we also go back to our theoretical framework, whether our theory would agree or disagree with the results of our study. So basically, if we can support our results with our theory, then we need to accept our theoretical framework. And if it does not support, then we need to look for another theoretical framework or theory to support the results of our study. So also there must be an explicit discussion of whether the hypotheses are supported or rejected. So take note, for those studies who are actually either comparative or correlational for an inferential statistic, we need to support whether our hypotheses are rejected or actually accepted in this particular study. The results of the analysis interpretation must be clearly presented and logically organized. So this is our discussion. Again, there are three points that you need to consider. The first one is to have related study to support our results. At the same time, we need to utilize our theory, whether our theory supports or disagree with the results of our study. And at the same time, we also need to consider whether our hypotheses are accepted or rejected if you have an inferential question. So how to organize your results and discussion? So organize and present results and discussion into sections based on the statement of the problem. We kept on mentioning this one because it must be connected. begin with the discussion, and end the section with the corresponding table. So we have the text first. No, sorry. We need to have the text first, the explanation, the discussion, before we put our what do you call this one? Before we put our table. So usually for the usual process in our research, the first one focus on the profile of the respondents, followed by the descriptive discussion, interpretation of the statistical data, researchers' analysis of the data, the theory, was it approved or disapproved, implications of the result. So what? You need to answer the question. So what? You have the results, and then what? You need to have the implications. Related studies to support the results, so what I mentioned. And the last part would be your table or your figures for the descriptive discussion. If you have a hypothesis, then you have the inferential discussion. So what will be included in your inferential discussion? First will be the interpretation of the statistical data in textual form, researchers' analysis of the data, your own analysis of the data, the theory, was it approved or disapproved, the hypothesis, whether it was supported or rejected during our research analysis, implications of the study, so what? No? So after finding out the result of the study, what will be some of the major contribution of our research to the community? Or is our finding relevant to other studies? We need to also put it there in our discussion part. Related studies to support the results. And lastly would be the table or the figures. So as you've noticed, from A to F, all are in textual form, and letter G would be the presentation of your table. So that's it for our results and discussion. See you in our next video. Thank you.